Good afternoon, everybody. It is May 2nd, and today I wanted to discuss container mixes. If you've been following this channel recently, you'll know over the past 6 months I've developed a little bit of a fig tree obsession. And over here in the corner I have a few more figs that I have ready to be up-potted. They are a Marseille Black MBVS that I grew from cuttings. The two larger figs are a Bourgeois Blanca Negra and a Col de Dame de Tat. I traded for the former one, and I won the latter on FigBid. And then over there in the corner, that is a San Miguel Roxo that has been grafted on Hardy Chicago. The San Miguel Roxo, some people refer to it as the Azores Dark fig. It's a pretty popular early fig. It's also kind of hard to get. That one's not ready to be up-potted yet, but the other three are. So I wanted to talk container mixes. Now the thing about container mixes is a containered environment is very different than an in-ground environment. So if you go out and you buy potting soil, the key ingredient to any good high-quality potting soil is a moisture retaining and regulating base. The two most popular things to retain and regulate moisture are peat moss and coco coir. You can use either or. They're both equally interchangeable. I am going with coco coir because it's a little more affordable, and because they come packaged completely dehydrated. You can just toss them on the front seat of your car. They're really convenient, whereas the big cubes of peat moss are heavy and they take up a lot of room in your car and make them pretty dirty. The only downside to the coco coir is that you have to hydrate it, and it can be a little bit of a lengthy process. In order to hydrate it, you toss it in a wheelbarrow and you fill the wheelbarrow up with water and it soaks. A little bit of a pro tip towards doing this: any kind of moisture retaining medium, be it coco coir or peat moss, absorbs warm or hot water much faster than cold water. So if you can, let your hose fill up. If you can, let your hose sit out in the sun beforehand to heat up, so you can dump some hot water all over that coco coir and it will expand much more rapidly. If you use cold water, you're going to have to let that brick sit in there for about 20 minutes to half an hour. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll let it have ample time to expand. And then we just let it sit and wait. One thing that's important to note while we are focusing on planting figs in this video: this method can be used as an all-purpose container soil for pretty much all of your fruits and vegetables. This is especially good for fruit trees. A lot of times with annual vegetables, you can get away with a cheaper mix because they grow so fast and they die off by the end of the year before the winter. So it's not a big loss to eventually lose them. But for fruit trees and permanently containered things, this is an ideal mix in most cases. Here on the southeastern North Carolina coast, we've been cooking for the past 2 weeks. It's been in the mid-80s and sunny every single day. We haven't had a drop of rain in 2 weeks, and we've had hardly any cloud cover. It has been very warm, and as such, my garden has been exploding in the heat. So while we are waiting for this coco coir to expand, I'll take you around and give you a little update on my fig trees. I gave you an update about a week ago, but they've grown so much since then because of the heat. This is the Col de Dame de Tat that I purchased off of FigBid. You can see how large and advanced it is. I have spent the past week acclimating all of these plants to the sun. I recently posted a video on that, and it has been successful. There's been very little damage. This is the Bourgeois Blanca Negra, also a very, very beautiful plant. I'm going to up-pot this. And then down here are my cuttings that are Marseille Black MBVS cuttings. I'm going to put these in larger pots. the root structure is not super advanced, so they'll probably go through a small amount of transplant shock. Here is the second cutting. You can see there's a little bit of sun damage on this leaf from the acclimation process, but a little bit of damage is to be expected, and it will grow out of it. Here you'll see my other fig trees. I'll link to the video above with my most recent update, which was only a week or so ago, so you can compare how much bigger they've gotten in this week of mid-80s. These are both Col de Dame Noir fig cuttings that I raised over the winter. They have leafed out like crazy in the past week. They were not doing anything for all of March outside, and they've just gone ballistic in the past week. This is my Black Madeira, which was almost completely dormant from February until about a week and a half ago. It actually had 3 leaves, and it lost 2 of them. Now it has just one. It was down to 1. This was the only leaf on there, but since it's pushed all new growth out of the top, and it's getting a second and third shoot out of the bottom, so I'm very happy about that. This is my Martinenca Ramada. This is one of the 2 that I successfully grew from cuttings, and I up-potted the slower of the 2. This is the other Martinenca, and boy, I wish I would have up-potted this for myself instead. This one looks absolutely incredible. I've heard stories that Martinenca Ramadas should be grafted because they don't do well in their own rootstock, but this cutting says otherwise. Here we have a Smith. This one is really looking nice. It's leafing out all over the place. Very happy about this. This is supposed to be a very good humidity tolerant variety for the south. You can see even the top is becoming lignified, which is great news. This is the Raspberry Latte. This has gone just utterly bananas. It's absolutely enormous. It was one of my most vigorous cuttings to begin with, and it has just gone bonkers in the heat. Same thing with this Latarula Italian Honey. It's putting out new green growth everywhere. It looks great. This Chicago Hardy that I bought from Home Depot for $9 in a bag also looks fantastic. Possibly my most vigorous cutting here is the Italian 258. And if we can zoom in here, you will see that is the formation of a fig right there. That is a little figlet. It looks like we may get a little figlet right here as well. And here's another one. There's a figlet. If we go down, that's the start of a figlet. And there's just bumps forming at every node, so I'm very happy about this. This is my Violette de Bordeaux. The top is becoming very, very branched out. I'm getting branches in all different directions, so I'm going to have to prune this heavily next year. And this is my Olympian that I bought for $11 at Lowe's, and if you can see right here, I'm also getting figlets. That's a figlet. That is a figlet. And that is the start of a figlet. So everything's looking really great. Very happy about that. The last fig on the list is my Celeste in my front yard, and this has figs all over it. You can see them over here. Pretty much at every node there is a little figlet forming. Alright, the cocoa core is fully expanded, and you may have to run a rake through this a few times and fluff it up and add a little bit more water to get all of the hard chunks off, but this is exactly what it should look like when it's done. So with a good moisture retaining container mix, it should be about half. Should be a mixture of either peat or cocoa core, or a combination of both. To that I'm going to add this Walmart brand potting mix, which is not the greatest quality, but it's good enough. And then to that I'm going to add this organic humus and manure. Some people get really upset when you plant things in compost. A lot of times there are large chunks of wood chips in it that rob nitrogen as they decompose. You're typically not supposed to add compost too deep, but the issue with this coco coir or peat moss is that they're biologically inert. There's no micronutrients for your plants in there. They're just designed to regulate the moisture and to hold moisture for long periods of time. So I want to add a little bit of organic matter in there along with some organic fertilizer. I want to add healthy microbes to my soil mix to help break down the fertilizer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this wheelbarrow full of coco coir. I'm going to add half of the 2 cubic foot bag of potting mix, and then I'm going to add a little bit of this organic humus and manure. So this is what the mix looks like. That's the compost on top. Under that is about half the bag of the potting soil, and then you have the coco coir underneath that. So I'm just going to mix this around as best as I possibly can with my own hands. Alright, now that that has been roughly mixed by hand, I'm going to add some fertilizer to that. And this is the same fertilizer mix that you've seen me use in almost all of my videos to date. I use this for just about everything. It's 2 parts organic 555. Any brand will do, it doesn't matter. And then 1 part bone meal, 1 part Epsom salt, and 1 part crab and lobster shell meal. So I'm going to put 2 1/4 cup scoops in this mix, and then I'm going to blend that all in by hand. Now that the fertilizer blend has been mixed into my soil medium, here I have 3 Lowe's buckets, and I'll link to the video above. I showed you how to drill out 5-gallon buckets from Lowe's or Home Depot for use as containers, and you can see what they look like. They're nothing special. They're pretty much the cheapest container you can possibly make, and they're very heavy duty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill these up about 2/3, about halfway to 2/3 of the way with my container mix that I just made. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just a little bit more fertilizer, and I'm going to work that right into the soil. Because this is organic fertilizer, it will not burn the roots. So I just want to add a few sprinkles and work this into the soil so the roots will immediately get fertilizer as it breaks down. Okay, now they've all been potted permanently, with the exception of this other Marseille Black MBVS that I put in a little 1-gallon container. That was the smaller one. I'm going to keep that off to the side. Now that they've all been potted, I'm going to water it in with fish fertilizer, just like I do with all of my plants. I swear by this stuff, and I think it really helps with transplant shock. And because fish fertilizer is completely organic and made out of basically ground up whole fish, you don't have to worry about fertilizer burn, and it makes an excellent foliar feed. So I actually like to pour it all over the plants and make sure to wet down the leaves as well. Then we're going to put one more small sprinkle of fertilizer around the base. That was only about 1 to 2 tablespoons per plant, and now we're going to finish watering them in. So there you go, everything has been successfully potted. You'll also see that I have probably about 40% of the soil left over, so I could easily pot up probably another 2 whole fruit trees with that in a 5-gallon Lowe's or Home Depot bucket. So what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to take this Nancy watermelon that I grew from seed, and I'm going to fill up this 20-gallon grow bag, and I'm going to grow the watermelon in this bag, and I'm going to let the vines sprawl all over the ground. I actually have 2 sugar babies over there. It's in that center bag. It's the third bag. 1, 2, 3. I have 2 watermelon in there. So they're sugar babies. This is going to be a full-size watermelon. Thanks so much for watching the video, everyone. I hope you found it helpful for your future endeavors. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel and like, comment, and share the video. It really helps me out a lot. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you again next time.